The crowd cheered loudly as the local champion, Jackson Hale, stepped onto the shooting range. Cameras flashed. Reporters shouted his name. Young kids held signs with his face printed on them. Everyone was watching him. No one noticed the quiet girl. Standing near the back gate, her name was Ariana Jones, a 17-year-old girl from the South End, a rough neighborhood known more for violence than dreams. She had no coach, no teammates, and not even a proper shooting uniform. Her shoes were old, with torn laces. Her backpack was faded, and the rifle in her hand wasn't hers. It was borrowed, but in her eyes, there was something different. She wasn't nervous. She wasn't scared. She just looked ready. Ariana walked slowly toward the range, her eyes scanning the lanes. Most were already full. Men and women in bright uniforms stood confidently with expensive rifles. Some of them had trained for years. Some had medals on their chests. Some didn't even notice her walking past. One boy looked at her shoes and laughed quietly to his friend. "She lost already," he whispered. Another girl looked at her borrowed rifle and raised her eyebrows. "Seriously? Hold things still? Works?" Ariana said nothing. She just found an empty lane near the end of the row and stood behind it. Her hands touched the rifle gently, like she was greeting an old friend. The rifle was scratched and worn, its wooden body marked by time. But it had a steady weight, a quiet soul. The man who gave it to her, Mr. Turner, was an old veteran who once lived next door to her. He had seen her shoot cans behind their building with perfect aim. He smiled one day and said, "You've got your father's eye." That was all he said, before handing her the rifle. The loudspeaker crackled. "Next up, warm-up round begins in 2 minutes." The crowd's energy grew. Jackson Hale walked onto the main lane. He waved to the crowd and winked at the cameras. He was tall, confident, with a clean uniform and a $5,000 custom rifle. He was the favorite to win today again. As the shooters got ready, Ariana placed her gear slowly. She unfolded a small towel to wipe the rifle. She tightened her shoelaces. She didn't smile. She didn't speak. She simply waited. A man in a red shirt, possibly a coach, walked by and noticed her. "Are you in the right place?" he asked with a frown. Ariana looked up. "Yes." "No team, no badge, no coach?" he asked. "No, sir." Head and walked away. The buzzer rang. Warm-up shots began. Jackson fired. His shot hit near the center. The crowd clapped. Another shooter followed. Another good hit. More cheers. Then it was Ariana's turn. She took a deep breath, raised the rifle. Her hands were steady, her back straight. Her mind focused. Bang. The sound was softer than the others, less polished, but her bullet flew fast. The judges looked at the screen. Bullseye. Perfect center. The crowd went silent for a moment, surprised. Someone near the back said, "Who was that?" But before anyone could answer, the cheers continued for the other shooters. Ariana remained unnoticed, uncelebrated. Still, something had changed. Behind her, a young boy tugged at his father's coat. "Dad, that girl hit the middle." Father shrugged. Beginner's luck. After the warm-up round, the judges gave a short break. Ariana walked to the water station alone. She noticed the other competitors in groups laughing, sharing tips, checking scores. She sat on a bench and opened a small sandwich. No one sat next to her. She remembered her father again. He used to take her to a small range in the forest. He taught her how to breathe, how to be still, told her. Shooting isn't power, it's peace. It's silence between the heartbeat. She missed him. He died 2 years ago, shot during a robbery while protecting their neighbor. After that day, Ariana promised herself she would make his name known. She would carry his strength with her, even if no one believed in her. A voice interrupted her thoughts. "You shoot good," said a soft voice. Ariana looked up. It was a young girl, maybe 30, standing with her mom. "Thanks," Ariana replied. The girl smiled and walked away. But that small kindness lit a spark in Ariana's chest. Back at the lanes, the competition was starting. The announcer read the names of the top shooters, saving Jackson for last. Again, Ariana was skipped over. She walked quietly to her lane. She didn't need an introduction. She would let her rifle speak. The first round began. Shooters had to fire. 5 bullets. Speed and accuracy mattered. Jackson shot first 4 of 5 were excellent. One was near perfect. The crowd roared. Then came Ariana's turn. Bang, 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 bang. Each shot was quick. Calm, clean, the judges. Eyes widened. The screen flashed the results. All 5 within the inner circle. It was a perfect score. No one else had done it that day. Still, there was no cheer, no clap. Only whispers. Who is that girl again? Where's her team? Is this a joke? But Ariana didn't care. She wasn't here for their cheers. She was here to prove a point. As she packed up her gear, Jackson looked over and finally spoke to her. Nice shooting, he said with a crooked smile. Didn't know they let street kids join? Brianna looked him in the eye. Didn't know champions were so scared? His smile faded. Later that evening, as the sun dipped behind the range, the scoreboard displayed the top 5. Jax was second. Ariana was first, and still. No one came to congratulate her. No one asked for her story. No one noticed the girl who had made history in her first round, but they would, very soon. The whole world would. Her first bullet didn't just hit the target, it woke up the whole room. The next morning, the shooting range was filled with a new kind of energy. News had spread. A new name had appeared at the top of the scoreboard. Name no one had heard before. Ariana Jones' score. 100.0. Many thought it was a mistake. Some said it was luck. Others believed it was just a lucky beginner's round, but a few were beginning to worry. The sun was rising behind the tall pine trees that lined the range. Ariana arrived early, dressed in the same clothes, the same torn shoes, and carrying the same old rifle that had now become her closest friend. No team. No camera crew. No one walking beside her. But her mind was sharp. She had slept only a few hours, replaying every shot in her head. Her father's words echoed in her dreams. Your focus is stronger than noise. Let silence be your weapon. She was ready for round 2. Inside the waiting area, the other competitors sat in groups, stretching their arms, checking their rifles, laughing, chatting. Jackson Hale stood near the snack table, surrounded by his teammates. He was wearing a new jacket that said Future National Champion. When he saw Ariana walk in, his smile faded just a little. She's still here? One of his friends whispered. Jaxo nodded. Let her have her fun. She'll break under pressure today. The announcer's voice came through the speakers. Competitors, please report to your shooting lanes. Round 2 begins in 10 minutes. Ariana took her position. She glanced at the scoreboard beside her lane. Her name was still at the top. That didn't matter to her. She came to beat doubt. But today's challenge was harder. Each shooter would fire at moving targets. The targets would slide left and right at random speeds. Timing, patience, and control would decide everything. The whistle blew. Round 2 began. Jackson went first. His rifle fired in quick bursts, clean, professional, loud. Each bullet hit the moving target, but a few landed just outside the center. The crowd still cheered. Not bad. One man shouted, Classic Jackson. Another said. Then it was Ariana's turn. Silence. Only the wind moved. Only the targets danced from side to side. Ariana raised her rifle slowly. Her fingers adjusted the sight. Her left eye closed. She followed the motion not with panic, but with grace. Bang. The first target stopped moving. Bullseye. Bang. Second, one clean center. Bang. 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 All 5 targets froze, hit square in the middle. Even the judge sitting beside the control panel paused for a second before blinking. At the results. Is that perfect? He whispered to another. It is, the other replied. Again. The screen lit up. Ariana Jones, 100.0 moving targets. A low murmur spread through the stands. She did it again. Wait, that wasn't luck? Who is she? Jackson's jaw tightened. He turned away from the screen. For the first time, Someone else was shining brighter than him, and it was a girl who didn't have a coach, didn't have a sponsor, didn't even have a proper uniform, just focus, and a story no one had asked her yet. After the round, Ariana walked toward the bench area. Her shoulders were relaxed, but her mind stayed locked in. Suddenly, a hand touched her shoulder. She turned. It was a woman middle-aged, wearing a brown jacket and holding a notebook. "Hi, I'm Leah Monroe, local reporter. I just watched your round, that was." "Something else," she said. Ariana nodded politely. "Thank you. Where did you learn to shoot like that?" Ariana paused. "My father. He taught me before he passed away." Leah's pen stopped. "Would you be okay if I wrote a small piece on you? Nothing big. It's just your name, your story." Ariana thought for a moment, then nodded once. "If it helps people know where I came from." Well, the interview happened quietly. Something else was happening nearby. Jackson was in a private room talking to his coach. His voice wasn't calm anymore. "She's making a joke of this place," he hissed. His coach raised an eyebrow. "She's outscoring you. That's not a joke. She's using some old military gun. It's probably illegal. We should file a protest." The coach sighed. "Or you could beat her." Jackson slammed his water bottle down. "I always win. I'm not losing to some charity case street shooter." But inside, he was scared. He had never felt like this before. Meanwhile, Rihanna walked outside for a breath of fresh air. She pulled out a small photograph from her jacket, her father in uniform, smiling with his arm around her when she was just 10 years old. She whispered, "Still with me, Dad?" A soft wind brushed her cheek. She smiled. That night, the article went live online. "The Girl in Shadows. How an Unknown Teen is Shocking the Shooting World" by Leah Monroe had her photo, her backstory, her scores. "Her Dreams" by Morning. Thousands had read it. Comments poured in. "She's incredible. This is what real talent looks like. Reminds me of the greats from the military ranges. She's my daughter's new hero." Rihanna didn't see the comments. Right away, she didn't check the article. She was preparing for day 3. Another round, another test. But now, the shadows couldn't hide her anymore. The world had finally begun to notice. The girl no one saw coming. He smiled at her, but it wasn't kindness. The sun rose over the hills, casting a golden glow on the competition grounds. By now, almost everyone had heard of the girl named Ariana Jones, the one with the old rifle, quiet eyes, and perfect aim. The news article had gone viral overnight. Reporters, coaches, and curious spectators filled the stands early. Some came just to see if the story was real. Some came hoping to see her fail, but Ariana didn't care. She stood alone near the equipment tent, tightening her laces and cleaning her rifle with slow, careful hands. The old man who had loaned her the rifle, Mr. Turner, sat on a wooden bench nearby, sipping from a metal thermos. He didn't speak much, but his quiet presence was enough. He gave her a small nod. "Just another day, soldier." She smiled back. The crowd buzzed with new energy. People pointed at her. Some whispered. Some smiled. A few took secret photos. For the first time, she was not invisible. And for the first time, Jackson Hale didn't like that. Jackson stood in front of a large mirror inside the dressing room. He combed his hair, adjusted his shooting jacket, and stared hard at his reflection. His eyes weren't calm anymore. He had always been the center of attention. Always the one people talked about. Always the star. But today, they were talking about someone else. A girl with no team, no coach, and no background. Worse, she was beating him. And now he had to stop it. When Ariana walked onto the shooting line for round 3, the atmosphere had changed. The announcer said her name clearly this time. There was even light applause. Cameras followed her as she took her place. Ariana didn't wave. She simply looked downrange and waited. Today's challenge was different. Competitors had to fire blind, meaning the targets were placed, but the screen showing the hit results would be turned off until the end. The audience would know. But The shooter wouldn't. This test was all about trusting your skill. Jackson took his position 1 lane over from Ariana. He leaned over and whispered, "Nice article." Ariana didn't respond. He smiled, but it wasn't kind. Fame's fun, but pressure's tricky. Let's see if you're still a hero without your lucky streak. She still said nothing. He straightened and loaded his rifle. The whistle blew. Bang, bang, bang. Both. Jackson and Ariana fired 5 rounds each. Jackson's shots were loud, sharp, full of power. He stood tall, cocky even. Ariana's were softer, smoother. Like poetry, the audience could see the results on the scoreboard. But the shooters couldn't. Ariana never glanced at the crowd. She trusted her breath, her balance. Her father's training. When the round ended, the announcer built suspense. In 3rd place for this round, James Yao. 2nd place, Jackson Hale. Pause. And in 1st place once again, Ariana Jones. 5 direct hits. Crowd gasped, then clapped louder than ever before. Ariana blinked. She hadn't expected applause. Jackson turned to her and gave another smile. But this time, his eyes were burning. "Well," he said, "maybe you're better than I thought." Still, Ariana noticed something strange. That smile wasn't real. It was forced. And behind it was something dark. Later in the break area, Ariana sat quietly eating from a small box of rice her mother had packed. She didn't sit with the others. She didn't mind. It was peaceful alone. Then she heard a voice. "You shoot like a ghost." She looked up. A young woman, another shooter, was smiling kindly at her. "My name's Lena," the girl said, sitting beside her. "I've been watching you. You don't just aim. You dance with the target." Ariana smiled shyly. "Thanks. You. Ever think about joining a team?" Lena asked. "I've never been invited." "Well, maybe you just got your first invite." From a distance, Jackson watched the 2 girls talking. He didn't like it, not one bit. That evening, as the sun set, behind the hills, Ariana practiced alone in a quiet corner of the field. She wasn't shooting, just aiming, breathing, practicing her stillness. Mr. Turner came and sat beside her again. "You feel it, don't you?" he said. She nodded. "They want you to fall." She nodded again. "But you're not going to." She looked at him. "Oh, sir," he grinned. "Then let 'em smile while they still can." Meanwhile, deep inside the coaching building, Jackson stood in a quiet office with his private trainer. "She's got the crowd now," Jackson growled.
Right.
"If I don't stop her, sponsors will drop me." His coach stared at him, then focus. "You've beaten pressure before, not like this." Jackson threw his towel on the table. "She doesn't even flinch. Hey, she's like a machine." His coach said nothing. Then Jackson whispered, "Maybe we'd break her before the final." The coach looked up sharply. "You better not mean what I think." "You mean?" Jackson didn't answer, but his smile returned, and it still wasn't kind. That night, Ariana returned home to her small apartment. Her mom was waiting at the kitchen table with a warm meal. They didn't talk much. But when Ariana placed a small medal on the table, her mom touched her hand and whispered, "He would be so proud of you." Ariana looked down. Tears touched the corner of her eyes, but she wiped them away and whispered back, "I'm just getting started." She carried her father's last words in her jacket pocket. The morning of the 4th round was colder than usual. A thin fog covered the field, giving the range an eerie, quiet look. Competitors rubbed their hands to stay warm. The loud voices from earlier days were now whispers. Fewer jokes. More eyes. Because everyone knew no, Ariana Jones wasn't just lucky. She was dangerous. She had topped the scoreboard for 3 days straight. The quiet girl with worn shoes had become the one to watch. Some didn't like that. But Ariana wasn't thinking about them. Her fingers were holding something in her jacket pocket, something small, worn and sacred. A piece of folded paper. Her father's final note, flashback 2 years earlier. A hospital bed, machines beeping. A man with tired eyes holding his daughter's hand. He was a strong man, once Staff Sergeant Marcus Jones, a military sharpshooter. But now he looked weak, his skin pale, his voice soft. Ariana sat beside him, holding back tears. He handed her a small piece of paper, folded carefully. "Don't open it yet," he whispered. "When?" she asked. He looked at her with those deep, calm eyes. "When they laugh at you, when they say you can't, when it gets hard. That's when," she had nodded. That was the last thing he gave her. Back in the present, Ariana stood near the practice area, away from the crowd. She unfolded the note. It was short, just a few words. Written in her father's careful handwriting, "Your eye sees what others don't. Your silence is your strength. And no matter what they take from you, they can't. Take your aim." Dad Ariana closed her eyes. She felt his voice inside her, his hands adjusting her stance, his calm words guiding her breath. She took a deep breath, folded the paper, tucked it safely back into her jacket. Today's event was a critical one. The long-range precision challenge. Targets were placed at double the normal distance. Wind was stronger. Every mistake would count. Only the top 5 would advance after today, and Jackson Hale was ready to make sure he stayed in. As Ariana walked to her lane, she heard it again, the whispers. "She can't shoot long range. Her gun's too old for that. She doesn't even use a scope." She didn't answer. She didn't need to. Jackson stood in the lane next to her, polishing his custom long-range rifle. He looked over and grinned. "Hope you brought binoculars," he said. "You'll need 'em." Rihanna didn't react. He leaned a little closer. "You know, this round is where all the kids fall apart." Still, silence. He frowned. No smart words today. She finally turned her head. "Why speak?" she said softly. "When the bullet does it better." Jackson's grin faded. The buzzer rang. The crowd went silent. Jack's own fired. Bang. 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 His shots were tight. Clean. The screen showed near-center hits on all 5 targets. The audience clapped, though less loudly than before. Then came Ariana's turn. She didn't rush. She closed her eyes for 3 seconds. The wind moved across her face. Then she opened her eyes, lifted the rifle, fired. Bang. A long silence. Then, the screen flashed. Bullseye. Banged another. Bullseye. Bang. Wind shifted. She adjusted. Bang. Perfect again. 1 bullet left. She paused. The wind picked up. Some in the crowd held their breath. Bang. The screen froze for a second. Then, 5th. Bullseye. 5-4-5. Again. The crowd didn't cheer this time. They stared, shocked, even. The announcer hesitated before saying, "And once." Again, a perfect score by Ariana Jones. Jackson stepped back, shaking his head. He muttered, "What is she?" After the round, the judges gathered near the range board. A few had serious faces. "She's not using tech, no scope, just iron. Sights, she's outperforming military-grade equipment. This isn't normal." But they had no reason to disqualify her because she was clean. Later that afternoon, while Ariana sat under a tree eating a simple sandwich, a new face approached. A tall man with silver hair and a long coat. He looked like someone important. "Miss Jones," she stood up. "Yes," he offered his hand. "I'm Colonel Weston, retired, used to train Olympic shooters. And I've never seen anything like you." She shook his hand quietly. "You ever consider professional training?" he asked. She looked down. No one ever offered. "Well, I am," he said. She smiled politely but said nothing. "Think about it," he added. "You're special." He turned and walked away, but his words stayed. That evening, at the Range Motel, Ariana sat in her small room, writing in her notebook. She wrote down each shot she took, each angle, each wind pattern. Her father had taught her that good shooters remembered not just what they hit, how they hit it suddenly. There was a knock at the door. She opened it. No one was there, but on the ground was an envelope. She picked it up, opened it. Inside was a printed message. "Stay in your place. This isn't your world." No name. No address. Just cold words. Her hand tightened around the paper. Then she walked to the trash can and burned it. As the flame died out, she whispered again, "I'm not leaving." And inside her pocket, her father's words felt warm against. Her heart? Who is she? Someone asked. But no one had the answer. The stands were fuller than ever. Day 5 of the tournament had drawn in new visitors, news reporters, ex-military shooters, sponsors, and people who had never stepped on a range before. They weren't here for the famous names anymore. They came for her, the girl in the worn jacket. It's the quiet one with no sponsors, no flashy gear, no coach shouting orders. They came for Ariana Jones. But even with all eyes on her now, no one really knew her. And in the silence between each shot, something new started to rise fear. The event of the day was the timed rapid-fire round. Shooters had to hit 5 targets in under 10 seconds. And each second lost meant major point deductions. Accuracy was still key. But now the clock mattered just as much. A test of speed under pressure. Ariana sat alone at the edge of the preparation area, cleaning her rifle slowly around her. The voices whispered like wind. She doesn't even wear gloves. Where did she even come from? Maybe she's military trained. Her gear is ancient. How does she even compete with that? But the loudest whisper came from a small group of judges standing beside the announcer booth. "This can't go on much longer," one said. "If she wins again, the sponsors will start pulling away from our star." "You mean Jackson?" The man nodded. "He's our champion. He brings the crowd. She's too quiet. No personality, no history, no background. She has skill. She has danger," the man replied. They watched her from a distance, as if she was some kind of ghost haunting their tradition. Ariana didn't hear them, but she felt it. That tightness in the air. That shifting energy. The way eyes now followed her every move, not with curiosity, but calculation. Across the field, Jackson Hale stood with his team. He wore new gloves, a newer rifle, and his signature confident smile. But his hands trembled just slightly. He had not beaten Ariana once, and today's event, rapid fire, was his specialty. "This is your round." "Man," one of his teammates said. "Just smoke her." Jackson didn't reply. He was too busy watching her as she stood, calm as stone, walking to her lane like the world didn't even exist. Ariana lined up. The timer was set. 10 seconds on the board. 5 targets. She took one deep breath, then another. A quiet hum filled her ears. Not from the crowd, but from within. Her heartbeat, her memory, her father's voice. "Fast doesn't mean wild. Breathe between your bullets." The buzzer rang. Bang, 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 bang. The shots were so fast, they almost blended into one. Sound her rifle locked into position, like it knew what to do before her fingers moved. Then, silence, 8 seconds. The crowd froze, then the screen flashed. All 5 targets hit, bullseyes 8.02 seconds. A storm of murmurs broke out. One woman stood. "Is that a record?" A man in a suit whispered to his assistant. "She's rewriting every line we've written." Some clapped, some didn't. Many just stared. Then came Jackson's turn. He cracked his neck, smiled at the cameras, and lifted his rifle. He fired. Bang, 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 bang. Quick, powerful, sharp. The screen flashed. 9.17 seconds. One near miss. Still. Good, but not perfect. Not like hers. He walked back to the benches, his jaw clenched tight. He didn't look at her, but she glanced once. Not in pride, but in peace. She wasn't here to beat him. She was here to remember who she was. After the round, a small group of girls surrounded her outside near the rest area. They looked 12 or 13, holding small notebooks. "Are you Ariana?" one asked. "Yes. Can you sign this?" Ariana hesitated. She had never signed an autograph in her life. But she smiled and wrote her name on the page. "You're amazing." One girl said, "I want to shoot like you." "You don't need to shoot like me." Ariana said softly. Just shoot like you. That's enough. The girl smiled wide and ran off. For the first time in days, Ariana felt a warmth in her chest, not from the sun, but from being seen. But not everyone was smiling. Behind a curtain near the admin tent, a man in a black cap was on the phone. I don't care how she shoots, he whispered. We can't let her win the finals. Do you understand me? Pause. I don't care how. Make her quit before day 8. That night at her motel, Ariana sat on the floor, the old rifle beside her. She unzipped her bag and pulled out a small cloth case. Inside were the only treasures she owned. Her father's folded note, a silver coin he gave her when she hit her first bullseye, and a photo of him in uniform. Holding baby Ariana in his arms, she touched the photo gently. Day 5, she whispered. I'm still here. But even as she smiled, a chill passed through her body. She walked to the door and locked it tight, because tonight she didn't feel safe. Outside her window, shadow moved. A camera flash flickered once, then vanished. She didn't cry when her father died, but that day she almost did. The 6th morning arrived with dark skies. Heavy clouds rolled in above the range, casting long shadows over the grass. Wind whistled through the trees. The usual excited energy around the field was missing. Today felt different. Ariana stood outside the motel entrance with her bag over her shoulder, her rifle strapped carefully to her back. She looked up at the clouds. She didn't mind the storm. She had already lived through worse. The competition board announced today's challenge. Mixed conditions round shooters would have to deal with wind, rain simulations, and moving targets all combined. It was the toughest round so far, but the challenge wasn't the hardest. Part of the day, the hardest part came in the parking lot. Ariana had just stepped onto the gravel path leading to the range when she heard laughter, cruel, loud, mocking. She turned. 3 boys stood near a black SUV. All were wearing team jackets, Jackson's teammates. One of them held up a ripped piece of paper and waved it. Hey, Ariana, he shouted. Did your daddy teach you this one? Then he mocked a gunshot sound and laughed. Another boy added, Hope you don't cry when the wind ruins your baby gun today. Ariana froze, her hands clenched. But she said nothing. She turned to walk away. Don't walk away, little queen, the 3rd boy shouted. We're just warming you up for losing. The laughter grew louder. Ariana kept walking. Faster now. But her vision blurred slightly. She reached a quiet corner behind the equipment shed and dropped her bag on the ground. Her chest felt tight. Her eyes burned. She crouched down and pressed her forehead to her knees. She hadn't cried when her father was buried. She hadn't cried when her school told her she didn't belong in sports. She hadn't cried when she practiced in the dark alley behind her apartment, while others laughed. But now, a tear slipped down her cheek. Just one. She wiped it away quickly and whispered, Not today. Not here. Suddenly a soft voice spoke behind her. You okay? Ariana turned quickly. It was Lena, the kind girl from day 3. She knelt beside her. I saw them, she said. I wanted to punch them. Ariana shook her head. Doesn't matter, it does. Ariana looked away. They'll always hate someone like me. No, Lena said. They're afraid of someone like you. 10 minutes later, Ariana walked to her lane. Eyes forward, shoulders firm. But something was different. She wasn't just focused now. She was fueled. Jackson stood 2 lanes down. Watching her, he noticed the wetness around her eyes and smirked. Guess it finally got to her, whispered to his teammate. But he didn't realize something important. Ariana didn't break. She bent. And now, she was back sharper than before. The weather. Simulation began. Wind blew. Light rain was sprayed across the targets. The air was unsteady. Many shooters hesitated. Some missed, some panicked. Ariana didn't blink. She took her position, closed her eyes for 3 seconds, and remembered her father training her in the rain. Feel the pressure, then shoot through it. Banged up, banged up, banged up, banged up. Her coat was soaked. Her hair stuck to her forehead. Her rifle was wet, but her heart was fire. The scoreboard updated. Ariana Jones, 5 hits, adjusted score. 99.7, only one other shooter came. Klojackson Haylett, 96.2. People. Again. Clapping not politely, respectfully. A woman in the crowd whispered. To her son, that girl's made of steel. A coach near the back muttered, if she keeps this up, she'll change everything. Jackson stared at the screen. For the first time. He looked truly afraid. After the round, Ariana returned to the same quiet spot behind the shed. She didn't cry again. She just pulled out the note from her father and added, a line on the back, they tried to break me today, but I remembered who I am. Later that evening, a woman from the event board approached her. We received a complaint, she said. Ariya? Nah, raised an eyebrow about me. The woman hesitated. Someone said you were overcoached in secret. Your equipment might be altered. Ariana stood still, calm. I have no coach, she said, and you can inspect the rifle. It's older than me. The woman nodded. We will, but unofficially. I don't believe them. After the woman left, Ariana smiled for the first time all day because they were running out of excuses. That night she sat in bed with the rifle beside her. A small knock came at the door. It was Lena. I thought you might like this, she said, handing her a small bag. Inside was a simple patch, a stitched target with the words still standing. I made it for you, Lena said. Ariana touched it and smiled. You gonna win this whole thing? Lena asked. Ariana looked her in the eyes. No, she said. Then she pointed to her chest. I'm going to own it. It was just an old gun, till they opened it. The morning of day 7 began quietly. Too quietly. Ariana stepped onto the range and instantly noticed something was off. The reporters were missing. The camera crew wasn't there. The crowd was smaller. There was no music, no warm-up announcements, no laughter. Instead, a group of officials stood at the end of the range with clipboards. One of them, a man in a gray coat with a cold expression, pointed toward her as she entered. That's her. Ariana stopped walking. 2 judges approached. Miss Ariana Jones, one of them said, we need to speak with you privately. Please bring your rifle. The other competitors watched in silence. Some looked confused, some looked smug. Jackson. Hale stood near the water table with his arms crossed and a smirk on his face. Ariana followed the officials to a small room near the admin center. They closed the door behind her. What is this? She asked calmly. We've received a formal protest, said the man in gray. Someone claimed your rifle may be modified with illegal upgrades. Ariana blinked. Modified? That rifle? Is 40 years old, we understand, the man said. But we are required to inspect it. He held out his hand. Ariana hesitated. That rifle was more than metal. It was her father's memory, her training, her history. But she nodded and passed it to them. The man took it carefully and placed it on a clean table. Then, in front of her, they took it apart. As they unscrewed the frame, removed the scope ring, and checked the barrel, one of the junior officials whispered, this doesn't even have stabilizers. No weighted grip either, said another. This trigger's stock, not custom. They opened the chamber, then paused. Inside, stuck between the wooden frame and the inner lining, was something no one expected. A small folded piece of paper. What is that? One of them asked. The man in gray pulled it out and opened it. It was faded, written in black ink. They passed it around, confused. Then one of the older judges stepped forward. He squinted at the paper and suddenly froze. I know that signature, he said quietly. Who? The others asked. He turned the paper around. At the bottom was a name, Staff SGT, Marcus Jones, U.S. Army. The paper was a military inspection. Tag and note from the Army Armory where the rifle was once stored. This was his rifle, the old judge whispered. He was a legend. Ariana's eyes stung. She had never seen that note before, but now she understood. Her father didn't just give her any gun, he gave her his own. The judges looked at each other. Well, said one, clearing his throat. No modifications. Number. Tech. No tricks. This rifle is pure history. Built solid. Shot clean. He turned to Ariana. We're sorry, Miss Jones. You're clear to continue. She took her rifle back gently, as if returning it to its resting place. Thank you, she said, but as she walked out of the room, her shoulders weren't just strong, they were armored with truth. Outside, the sun had broken through the clouds. The range looked brighter now. People noticed her walking back. Some clapped softly. Even those who once doubted her now knew. She wasn't hiding behind a secret weapon. She was the weapon. Jackson stood near the board, his arms still crossed. He had watched the whole thing. Looks like she passed one of his, teammates said. Nervously, Jackson didn't answer. His smirk was gone. His hands were clenched, and his eyes were full of one thing: fear. The event for the day was delayed due to the inspection. But when it resumed, the pressure was higher than ever. Round 7. Sudden death duel. Shooters would go head-to-head. 2 at a time. 1 shot each. Closest to center wins. No second chances. Jackson breezed through the first 2 duels. So did R. Why not? Now, they were set to face each other. For the first time, the stands filled. Again, everyone felt the tension. The announcer stepped forward. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the duel of the day. Ariana Jones versus Jackson Hale. The crowd leaned in. Jackson stepped forward. Confidence rebuilder, at least, pretending to be. Ariana stepped forward, calm as ever. They faced their targets, 1 bullet each. Jackson went. First, he raised his rifle, took a long breath, then fired. Bang! The screen showed. 0.9 centimeters from center, a solid shot. The crowd clapped lightly. Then, Ariana stepped up. She didn't overthink. She just remembered her father's hand on her shoulder the first time she ever held that gun. You don't fight the shot. You become the shot. She fired. Bang! The screen flashed. 0.3 centimeters from center. The crowd gasped, then stood. Applause roared like thunder. Ariana had won the duel. Clean, clear. True, Jackson didn't stay to shake hands. He walked off the range. Without a word, he passed the judges, he passed the media. He didn't stop because for the first time in his career, he was beaten by someone no one believed in. That evening, as the sun began to dip, Ariana sat on the grass near the back fence. She looked at her father's rifle and smiled. She whispered, I didn't know you left your name in here. That! Wind moved gently through the trees. She could almost hear his voice. I never left, baby girl. 1 bullet. 1 moment. 1 girl the world couldn't ignore anymore. Day 8. The final round. The sun rose slowly, as if it knew what was coming. From every corner of the country, people had come to watch. The stands overflowed. Reporters stood shoulder to shoulder. Drones hovered above. Even live TV cameras were now fixed on the small-town shooting range. The world had learned her name, but only one thing remained. Would Ariana Jones finish the story she never asked to be part of? Inside the warm-up tent, competitors sat in silence. Only 2 names were on the board now. Jackson Hale, Ariana Jones. The final match would be between them. Not by luck. Not by vote, but by results. Jackson had fought his way back after yesterday's loss. His scores were strong. His fire was alive. But Ariana had never fallen. She sat quietly on a wooden bench, hands resting on her lap. Her rifle her father's. Rifle was freshly cleaned, polished, and warm from the sun. She looked down at the patch Lena had given her, still standing. And then, at the folded paper she now carried in her jacket every day. Your eye sees what others don't. Your silence is your strength. And no matter what they take from you, they can't take your aim. She took a deep breath, not because she was nervous, but because the moment had finally come. The announcer's voice echoed across the range. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the final shot. 2 shooters, 1 bullet each. Targets placed. At extreme range, win calculated. Nearest to the center wins the national championship. The crowd roared. Ariana stepped forward. She didn't look at the audience. She looked at the sky. Her lips moved softly. Not a prayer, not a wish. Just 3 words. Let's finish this. Jackson was called up first. He walked tall, smiled for the cameras, and waved at the crowd. He still looked confident, but only Ariana noticed the tight grip he had on his rifle. He stood, breathed deep, and took the shot. Bang! The bullet soared across the wind, pushed. Field the screen blinked. 0 for centimeters from center. The crowd cheered. A solid shot, almost perfect. He smiled again and walked back to the bench. Then it was Ariana's turn. She walked slowly. No fanfare, no waving, just focus. As she reached the line, wind picked up. It was sharp, cold, fast. She looked across the range. Her hair danced in the air. Her jacket flapped against her legs. She closed her eyes, and in her heart, she remembered it all. Her father's soft laugh when she missed her first target. The alleyway where she practiced on stacked cans. The bullies in school who said girls didn't belong in sports. The mockery, the silence, the threats. In that first tear she shed alone behind the shed, she opened her. As breathed, raised her rifle. Time slowed, the wind shifted. Right, she adjusted slightly. The world faded, and she fired. Bang, silence even. The wind held its breath. The screen blinked once, twice, then froze. A red circle appeared. 011. Centimeters from center direct. Hit. The stands exploded in noise. People rose to their feet. Some screamed. Some clapped. Some simply wept. The announcer shouted into the mic. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a new national record and a new national champion, Ariana Jones. Jackson sat frozen. He didn't move, didn't speak. He wasn't angry. He was beaten, not by fame, not by luck, but by truth. Ariana stood still as the judges approached. Her one handed her the gold medal. Another gave her the official certificate. The last one. The oldest judge, the same, who recognized her father's name, stepped forward and whispered, "I trained with your dad. Once, he was the best. You're better." She smiled, but didn't speak, because sometimes silence is the loudest sound. That evening, after the crowd left, the lights dimmed, and the medals were placed in cases. Ariana returned to the now empty range. She stood at lane 8, where she had taken her final shot. The wind was soft now. The sky purple with sunset. Lena joined her quietly. "You did it," she said. Ariana shook her head slowly. "No, we did it." And every girl who watched and thought she couldn't. She reached into her jacket and unfolded the last letter from her father one more time. But now she added something below it, in her own handwriting. "Your aim never left me. I carried your promise. And now the world will never forget who we are." A small voice broke the quiet. A little girl stood with her mother by the fence, holding a toy rifle. She looked at Ariana, wide-eyed, and asked, "Can I be like you someday?" Ariana knelt down, smiled, and said, "No, be better." Or saw it. Her story was over until the phone call that shattered her peace. It had been 2 months since Ariana Jones stunned the world. The championship. The perfect shot. The gold medal. The quiet girl with the borrowed gun had made history, and for a while, the world wouldn't stop talking about her. She was on the cover of magazines. News channels replayed her final shot again and again. Offers flooded in sponsors, interviews, universities, and still. Ariana stayed silent. She turned down most interviews. She declined fancy brand deals. She didn't want the spotlight. She wanted peace. She wanted her father's rifle, her quiet time, the corner of the range, and that's exactly what she returned. 2. Ariana was back in her small apartment, now freshly painted. With her championship medal hanging from a simple nail on the wall, her mother worked fewer shifts now. Lena visited often. Sometimes a young girl or two from the neighborhood came to watch her practice. Life was calm, but peace never lasts forever. It was a cloudy Friday. When the phone rang, it wasn't a number. Ariana knew. She almost didn't answer, but something inside her said, "Pick up." "Hello?" she said. There was silence on the other end. Then, woman's voice, shaky, tired, young. "Hi. I don't know if you remember me. My name is Patrice. I'm the mother of little Kaylee, the girl you met on the last day of the tournament." Ariana sat up straighter. "The girl with the toy rifle?" "Yes, that's her. She always talks about you." Ariana smiled softly. She was sweet. The woman's voice cracked. "She's in the hospital." Silence. Ariana's heart dropped. "What happened?" "She was playing outside last night," Patrice said, barely holding herself together. "A group of boys started arguing. One had a real gun. It went off." Ariana's throat tightened. "She's alive," Patrice added quickly. "But she's hurt bad." She paused, then said something Ariana didn't expect. "She keeps asking for you." By that evening, Ariana was sitting beside a small hospital bed, holding the hand of the same little girl who once asked, "Can I be like you someday?" Kaylee's skin was pale. Tubes were in her arms. Her eyes fluttered open when she felt Ariana's hand. "You came," she whispered. Ariana nodded, fighting back tears. "I'm here. I got scared," Kaylee said. "I tried to run, but I wasn't fast enough." "You're brave," Ariana said softly. "You're the bravest little girl I've ever met." Kaylee smiled weakly. "Will I still get to shoot like you?" Ariana squeezed her hand gently. "Yes, you will." But inside, her heart was breaking. That night Ariana couldn't sleep. She stood on the rooftop of her building, her jacket wrapped tight around her, looking up at the stars. The world had changed so fast. She won. But what changed for girls like Kaylee? What changed for the neighborhoods that still heard gunshots at night? What changed for the quiet kids, the invisible ones, the broken ones? Nothing. And suddenly, Ariana realized something. A gold medal couldn't protect Kaylee, but maybe. Voice Kodot. The next day she made a decision. She opened her laptop for the first time in weeks, went to her email, found the one she had ignored, an invite to speak at a televised Elite Youth Summit for Sports and Safety. She replied with one line, "I'm ready." A week later, Ariana stood backstage in a packed auditorium. Cameras flashed. A crowd of students filled the seats. Microphones were on. A stage assistant approached her. "Just so you know," he whispered, "you don't have to say anything personal. Just talk about winning, about focus, inspiration, you know. Safe stuff." Ariana looked at him quietly, then stepped onto the stage. The lights were bright. The audience clapped lightly. She walked to the podium. She looked out over them, hundreds of young faces staring up at her. Some hopeful, some curious, some each waiting. And for the first time, Ariana spoke, not softly, not just with her aim, but with her voice. "I never wanted to be famous," she began. "I didn't train to be a star. I trained in the alley behind my building, dodging trash cans and learning to breathe in between sirens." Some in the audience leaned forward. "I didn't win because of sponsors or gear or private coaches. I won because I had to, because in my world, silence doesn't mean safety. It just means no one's listening." She paused. Her hands were steady. "There's a little girl in the hospital right now. Her name is Kaylee. She wanted to be like me. And last week she got shot playing outside." Gasps filled the air. Ariana's voice didn't shake. She didn't need a medal. She needed a safe place to dream. "And I'm standing here today to say this. It's not enough to aim for a target. If we're not also fighting for the kids who never get a chance to stand at the line." The room was silent. Then louding began. Soft at first, then louder, then thunderous. Ariana stepped back from the mic, not to hide, but to let her words echo without her. Outside the auditorium, her phone buzzed. A text from Kaylee's mom. "She's awake, watching. She smiled when she saw you." Ariana smiled back, not at the phone, not at the crowd, but at what she had finally become. Not just a shooter, but a voice. They said it would change her life, but the price.
Oh,
Her truth. After the youth summit, Ariana's world changed again. But this time, not because of a shot, because of her voice. Clips of her speech went viral, articles were written, podcasts played her words. Teenagers across the country shared her message. It's not enough to aim for a target if we're not fighting. For the kids who never get to stand at the line. She had become more than a champion now. She was a symbol, and with that came new attention. On a rainy afternoon, Ariana sat by the window, her notebook in hand. Watching the water hit the glass, she had just returned from visiting Kaylee, who was healing, but still quiet. The little girl had smiled, but her eyes changed. She had seen something she should never have seen, and Ariana couldn't forget it. Just then, the doorbell rang. Her mom opened the door. A man in a tailored navy blue suit stood outside, holding a black leather briefcase. He smiled politely. "Good afternoon. I'm Malcolm from the Apex Foundation. May I speak with Ariana Jones?" 10 minutes later, Ariana sat across from him in the small living room. Malcolm leaned forward, resting the briefcase on his knees. "At Apex, we invest in powerful young voices," he said. "You've shown leadership, strength, and discipline. You're exactly what the next generation needs." Ariana listened quietly. "We'd like to offer you a full scholarship," he continued. "Any college of your choice? All expenses covered. More than that, we'd like to partner with you." "Partner?" she asked. "Yes," he said, unlocking the briefcase. "You'd become a public figure for change. Speeches, television, appearances, even a book. We'd handle everything: training, styling, messaging, media." He pulled out a glossy folder and slid it toward her. On the cover was a title: The Silent Shot, The Ariana Jones Story, a Brand Blueprint. Ariana raised an eyebrow. "You've already planned this?" Malcolm smiled again. "We plan ahead for all our stars." That night, Ariana sat at her kitchen table with the folder open. Inside were photos of potential book covers, sample speeches with highlighted lines, and scripted interviews with fake answers to questions she hadn't even been asked yet. All felt polished. Too polished in one script, it said. "I grew up knowing I'd be a star. I trained every day with that dream in mind." Ariana's stomach turned. That wasn't her. She didn't grow up dreaming of medals. She grew up dodging broken glass, practicing between sirens, shooting because it made her feel safe, not famous. The next day, Malcolm called. "So what do you think?" he asked. "Ariya?" Nah, said nothing at first. Then finally, "I think your story is clean, pretty safe. But it's not mine. We can make adjustments," he said quickly. "This is how change happens, through visibility. Through image. And what do I lose in return?" she asked. He was silent. Ariana hung up, then closed the folder. She didn't tear it, didn't throw it away, just placed it in a drawer and walked out. She went straight to the range, but not the fancy one. The small, old one near the edge of the city, the one where nobody wore logos, and nobody asked for autographs. She set up 5 targets, then took out her father's rifle, and once, twice. 5 times, each bullet hit center. Her breathing slowed, her mind cleared. This was still hers. As she packed up, a man with gray hair and a veteran's cap approached her. "Miss Jones," he said gently, "I saw your speech, and I saw your shot." She nodded politely. "I've been teaching at-risk youth for 20 years, he said. "We run a program just down the road. We don't have much, but if you ever want to train the next generation, we've got a place." Ariana looked at him. She felt it. The difference between being a brand and being real. That night, she visited Kaylee again. This time, she brought a second toy rifle one. She painted herself. It had the words stand, aim, speak. Kaylee smiled. "Is this mine?" Ariana nodded. "Only if you promise to do all 3. As she left the hospital, her phone buzzed again. Another message from Apex Foundation. "We're still waiting on your yes. The world is watching." Ariana stared at it, then typed back, "Let them watch. I'll show them who I am without your script." She shattered records. Then she spoke her truth. Now, someone wanted to silence her at first. Started with small things. A few angry comments under her speech video. Anonymous tweets saying she's not that special. People questioning her win again. Ariana didn't flinch. She had dealt with worse all her life, but then it started growing faster, sharper, louder. A blog post appeared titled, "The Truth Behind the Medal? What Ariana Isn't Telling You." The writer, someone no one had heard of before, claimed she had special training from the military. Even though her father was long gone, they said her story was fake drama to sell a brand. The post included an old photo of her in school, edited with a caption, "Was this girl ever really silent?" Ariana stared at it in shock. The photo was from when she was 13, helping a teacher run a science fair booth. Someone had twisted it, and the comments below were worse. Just another fake activist? See her shoot without her sob story? She's a puppet for political agendas? That night, Ariana sat quietly in her room, the glow of her phone screen lighting her face. Lena called. "Are you okay?" she asked. Ariana didn't answer for a moment. Then finally she said, "They don't even want the truth. They want to rip apart whatever doesn't fit their version of it." Ariana's mom tried to comfort her. "You did the right thing, baby. Don't let noise shake your soul." But even so, Ariana started sleeping with her door locked again. She started checking over her shoulder when walking home from the range. The attacks weren't just digital anymore. One afternoon, she found her locker at the range scratched with red paint. Silence or leave. But still, she kept showing up. She trained. She coached kids on weekends. She visited Kaylee every Friday, like she promised, and she never stopped carrying her father's rifle, because the moment she gave up, they'd win. Then came the real blow. An email arrived from the national shooting board. She was scheduled to speak at the National Youth Conference, a spot reserved for top athletes. But now the email said, "We regret to inform you that your appearance has been withdrawn due to security concerns and ongoing controversy." Ariana sat still, reading it over and over. They weren't protecting her. They were erasing her that evening. She returned to the Veterans Youth Program where she was volunteering. The gray-haired man, Mr. Russell, welcomed her quietly. He had already seen the news. "You're still standing," he said barely. She replied. He led her into the small indoor range where 6 teenagers were waiting. They stood straighter. When she entered, one boy about 14, tall, nervous, walked up to her. "Miss Ariana," he said softly, "if you leave, who do we look up to?" Her chest tightened. That's when she understood something. They weren't just targeting her name. They were targeting her example. Because if she disappeared quietly, others would never rise. Later that night, she posted a single photo online. It showed her standing in front of a plain wall, holding her father's rifle across her chest, wearing no makeup, no sponsors, no logos, just her. The caption read, "You can try to silence my voice, but I was quiet before, and still, I made history."
Ow.
The post went viral in hours, but this time, not with hate. Thousands of messages came in. "You inspire my daughter. They tried the same with me. I didn't fight back. Thank you for doing it now. We see you. We hear you." The next morning, a letter arrived at her doorstep, a white envelope. No stamp. Inside was a handwritten note. "You're making enemies in the wrong places. Back off, or next time it won't be just words." No name, just a warning. Ariana looked up at the street. No one, nothing, just wind. She folded the note and placed it next to her father's, then whispered, "I'm not backing off. I'm loading up." One trigger, one trap. One girl with everything? To lose, the invitation looked official. Elegant gold seal, signed by the City Youth Foundation. It read, "We are honored to invite Ariana Jones to perform a live exhibition shot at the City Youth Festival, celebration of courage, focus, and youth leadership." It didn't mention the recent controversy. No warnings. No red flags. Just an offer to speak and shoot, to tell her story in front of a crowd that still believed in her. And yet, something didn't sit right. Ariana stared at the invite that night, sitting in silence across from Lena at their usual diner table. I don't know, she said. Lena leaned back. You always know, Ariana looked down. Not this time. Then don't go. Ariana shook her head. If I don't go, they'll say I'm afraid, that I'm hiding, that I gave up. Lena looked her in the eyes. And if it's a setup? Ariana hesitated, then whispered, then I'll shoot cleaner than I ever have before. The day of the event arrived. The stage was set at a large open-air field, surrounded by bright banners, music, and food stalls. Families sat on blankets. Kids held balloons. Everyone smiled. But behind the smiles, Ariana could feel it. Eyes watching her too closely. Cameras focused too long. She moved carefully. Wore gloves. Brought her own equipment. Refused to let anyone touch her rifle. She had learned, and she had prepared. The announcer introduced her like a celebrity. She's a champion, a leader, a voice that speaks even through silence. Please welcome Ariana Jones. The crowd clapped. Some cheered, but some stayed quiet. Ariana stepped up to the range. Target placed, wind light, nothing special, until, as she placed her rifle down to adjust her stance, she noticed something. A shiny metallic object tucked near the trigger housing. It was not hers. Her heart pounded. She leaned in. It was a tiny black sensor, barely visible, connected to a blinking micro device, a smart trigger module, illegal. She froze. As she placed her rifle down to adjust her stance, she noticed something. A shiny metallic object tucked near the trigger housing. It was not hers. Her heart pounded. She leaned in. It was a tiny black sensor, barely visible, connected to a blinking micro device, a smart trigger module. Illegal. She froze. The truth saved her once, but now it's turning people against her. After the failed setup at the youth festival, Ariana's name was everywhere again. This time, it's not as a suspect, but as a fighter. The headlines read, Ariana catches sabotage attempt on live stage. Champion exposes corruption at youth event. Still standing, Ariana's silence shatters lies again, but not everyone was cheering. Behind the scenes, people were getting nervous. And when powerful people feel nervous, they don't go quiet. They fight back. It started with a strange feeling at practice. Una arrived at the local range and noticed the staff whispering. When she stepped into her usual lane, she found a laminated sign, lane reserved for VIP members only. She blinked. That had never been there before. She walked to the desk. I've used this lane every week, she said. The man behind the counter, someone she'd known for over a year, didn't meet her eyes. New policy, he said flatly. She glanced. At the other lanes. Empty. Still, she wasn't allowed the next day. She got an email from a youth sports board she once worked with, due to recent disruptions at public events. Replacing your mentoring program under review. No new signups. Until further notice. Ariana stared at the screen. She hadn't done anything wrong. She had caught someone else cheating, and now she was being punished. Lena was furious when she found out. This is them, she said, pacing. The ones in suits. The ones you refused. Mean Apex? Ariana asked. Lena nodded. They run deeper than people think. Sponsors, boards, media. Once you say no to them, you become a problem. Ariana looked down at her hands. She had used them to fight for justice. Now, it felt like they were pushing her out without even touching her. Later that week, Ariana received a letter, a large envelope. A return name inside were printed pages, documents, screenshots. A list of organizations, names, private emails. At the top, a handwritten note. They're building something. Quietly, I thought you should know what's coming. She didn't recognize the handwriting, but what she saw inside shocked her. It was a coordinated plan, a network of private firms. Donors and image consultants working together, their goal. reshape public youth sports branding, reduce visibility of activist athletes, reclaim the narrative. Simple words, silence anyone like her. Ariana read the names. Again, some she recognized. One stopped her cold. Lena's name was on the list, her best friend. Her sister in spirit next to her name. Potential influence. Keep close. Use for access. The next day, Ariana didn't go to the range. She didn't check the news. She walked to the park and sat on a bench alone. Then Lena called. Ari, where are you? I needed air, Ariana replied quietly. Lena sounded normal. Too normal. Can we talk? Ariana asked. Of course, somewhere private. They met at the old alley behind their middle school, the same alley where Ariana first learned to aim by shooting soda cans off rusted poles. Lena arrived with her usual bright jacket and nervous smile. Ariana didn't waste time. I got papers, she said, with names. Lena tilted her head. What kind of names? Yours was on it. Lena stiffened. A long pause. Then she whispered, I didn't do anything. But were you approached? Ariana asked. Lena looked away. Yes. Ariana's throat tightened. When, right after your first big speech, Lena said, some guy offered me money, said I could help manage your image. That they needed someone close to you, too. Guide things. And you didn't tell me? I said no, Lena snapped. I told them I wouldn't be a part of it, but I was scared, Ari. They kept showing up. Emails, messages. Ariana didn't speak. Not yet. Lena stepped closer. I didn't sell you out. I swear. But I didn't say anything because I thought if I just stayed quiet, they'd go away. Ariana finally nodded, but her voice was cold. Silence doesn't protect us. I learned that the hard way. They stood in silence. Friends, sisters torn by the same war being waged in whispers. That night, Ariana sat alone with her father's rifle beside her. She wasn't afraid of losing medals. She wasn't even afraid of losing fans. But losing trust. Losing truth? That hurt worse than anything. She picked up her pen and wrote in her notebook, You win a war not by outshooting the enemy, but by outlasting their lies. Then she opened her laptop and began typing a message. This time, too. The people who were trying to erase her. Her words were bold, clear, public. You can block my access, cancel my appearances, paint my name in the shadows. But understand this. I was never aiming for medals. I was aiming for truth, no matter. What you strip away, truth doesn't bleed. She hit post, then leaned back and waited for the storm. They questioned how she won. Now, they're trying to prove she never did. 3 days after Ariana posted her public message, the silence broke. Not with another threat, not with praise, but with something colder, something calculated. News headline flashing across the biggest sports network. Was Ariana Jones given an unfair advantage at Nationals? New whistleblower claims tampering. Ariana's chest tightened as she read. The article cited an anonymous insider who said that a top competitor's weapon may have been tampered with. It implied Ariana's win was not as clean as the records claimed. They weren't saying she cheated directly, but they were lighting a fire under her name again. By nightfall, it spread everywhere. TV anchors debated. Pattis questioned her silence. Even fans began to ask, did she really beat Jackson fair and square? Why didn't anyone talk about the equipment checks back then? Was this all just a setup for a hero story? Ariana didn't sleep. She stared at her medal on the wall, the same one she had once held with pride. Now it looked different. Not dirty, but under fire. She needed answers, so she went back to where it all started, the National Range Office. Championship records were stored. Mr. Barnes, the senior technician who had verified her scores on the final day, met her at the back of the facility. You've seen the news, she said. He nodded. I'm sorry, Ariana. I didn't think they'd go this far. Is it true? About Jackson's weapon? Mr. Barnes looked at her carefully. There was a complaint filed quietly. A month after the finals, his team said his rifle misfired by milliseconds during the last round, And was it true? We tested it, he said, and found nothing wrong. Officially, everything passed inspection. But someone high up told us not to release the report publicly. Said it would only stir drama. Ariana's jaw clenched. So now, they're using that silence to rewrite the story. He nodded slowly. They're trying to smear your win without ever proving you wrong. Later that afternoon, as she left the facility, her phone buzzed. With a new message, a blocked number. Just one sentence. You should have taken our offer. We control what history remembers. That evening, Ariana met Lena again, this time in the small rooftop garden they used to climb as kids. She told her everything. The article, the hidden report. The message. Lena was quiet for a long time, then said something Ariana hadn't expected. Maybe. It's time you find the one person who's never spoken. Jackson. The next day, Ariana sent a message through a mutual contact. She didn't expect a reply, but the next evening, a single text came through. Meet me at the East Side Range. Midnight. No press. No lies. J. At midnight came. Ariana arrived alone. The range was dark, except for one open lane lit by a flickering floodlight. Jackson Hale stood at the far end, leaning against the counter, arms crossed. His face looked older than it had months ago, tired. But alert. You came, he said. I didn't come to fight, Ariana said calmly. Good. I'm too tired for games. They stood in silence for a moment. Then she asked the question that had haunted her for days. Did your rifle really misfire that day? Jackson looked at her long and hard, then spoke. No. Ariana blinked. Then why? I don't know who started that rumor, he cut in. But it wasn't me. He stepped closer. I lost fair. I wasn't happy about it. But I wasn't. Cheated. Ariana felt something release in her chest, like air coming back after drowning. But you didn't say anything, she whispered. I wasn't asked, Jackson said. And when the sponsors came calling, I kept my mouth shut. Figured silence would give me a way back into the spotlight. He looked ashamed. But this. He held up his phone with the headline on screen. This is low, even for them. Ariana nodded. They want to erase me, she said, but I need your voice. Jackson looked at her quietly, then finally said, Let's end this the right way. The next morning, a video went up on both Ariana and Jackson's channels. Unscripted, unedited. 2 champions, 2 voices. Jackson spoke first. There's been a lot of talk about broken guns, rigged scores, false victories. We make it simple, Ariana beat me, fair and clean. I lost, and I respected her for it. Still do. Ariana followed. They want to twist our silence into guilt. But silence only works when the truth is afraid, and I'm not afraid anymore. The video exploded. Millions of views. Even the network that started the smear campaign had to backpedal. The report from the range was leaked, the same one that proved Jackson's rifle was working perfectly during the finals, and suddenly the smoke around her medal began to clear. But Ariana knew. This wasn't the end. This was just the eye of the storm. The ones trying to erase her. They weren't done, but neither was she. She picked up her notebook and wrote, Asterisk, they can shake my medal. They can burn my image. But truth isn't a trophy. It's a target, and I never miss. They couldn't break her spirit, so now they're coming for her heart. After the truth came out, the wind shifted. Ariana's name cleared. Jackson's public video gave her championship. The validation no smear campaign could erase. People applauded her courage. Her inbox overflowed with messages of support from students, coaches, even strangers. For once, felt like the storm was ending. She finally had peace. But peace doesn't last long when powerful people lose. One evening, as the sun dropped behind the city skyline, Ariana walked Kaylee home from her rehab clinic. The little girl still limped slightly, but her spirit had returned. Did you know I hit 3 bullseyes in a row today? Kaylee said, grinning. Ariana smiled back. You're catching up to me. I'm gonna beat you someday, Kaylee giggled. I hope you do. They reached the front porch of Kaylee's building. That's when Ariana noticed it. A small, folded Note taped to the front door. No name. Just for words in sharp handwriting. She goes down next. Ariana's blood ran cold. She looked around. No one on the street. No camera. Just silence. She ripped the note down and slipped it into her jacket. That night, she sat alone on her bed, rereading the message under the glow of her bedside lamp. She had survived threats before, but this was different. This wasn't about her. This was a warning about Kaylee, a child, an innocent, and someone wanted her to know, we can reach whoever you care about. She called Kaylee's mom, told her everything. By morning, they'd moved Kaylee to a safer clinic across town. Lena stayed with them for the night, but Ariana couldn't sleep. She paced her apartment, her father's rifle on the table. Her notebook. Open, she wrote. Asterisk, I fought for truth. They're fighting for silence. But if they touch the people I protect, I will not just speak. I will burn everything they built. Asterisk, 2 days passed. Then a package arrived. No return address. Inside, a single black envelope. She opened it slowly. It held a sleek invitation card. Red embossed letters read, National Unity Ceremony, live broadcast, guest of honor, Ariana Jones, and beneath it, a handwritten line, accept, or the little girl's next lesson will come at a cost. Ariana dropped the card like it was poison. This wasn't just a fake invitation. It was a trap, a public stage, a threat behind the spotlight. Lena paced the room, furious. This is Apex, or someone tied to them. They want to force you into silence again, but this time on their stage. Ariana didn't speak. She looked at the card, then at the rifle on her wall, and whispered, they want to show them one. The day of the ceremony arrived. It was held at a grand indoor hall, packed with dignitaries, CEOs, and cameras. Ariana walked through the back door, dressed in simple black. No makeup, no designer logos, just her. Her heart thumped with each step. She knew the risk. Someone had a plan. She could feel it in the air as she walked to the stage. She passed a man she didn't recognize, sharp suit, earpiece. He nodded politely, but whispered just loud enough you should have stayed quiet. On stage, a long table held trophies and medals. A row of speakers stood up one by one, praising youth achievement, discipline, and cooperation. When it was Ariana's turn, the announcer smiled stiffly. Our next guest needs no introduction. The nation's quiet hero Ariana Jones. Applause followed, but her ears were ringing. She stepped up, looked across the sea of polished faces, and began. My name is Ariana, she said. I came here today not to smile for your cameras, but because I was told if I didn't, a little girl might get hurt. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Cameras clicked rapidly. I was threatened, she continued. And I'm tired of pretending this is just about medals. One of the stage managers motioned to cut her mic, but Ariana pulled her phone from her pocket and hit play. A hidden recording, the voice from the man at the door. You should have stayed quiet. The room fell silent. Then Ariana dropped the bomb. You tried to control me. You tried to erase me. You tried to hurt people I love. But I don't bow. I don't break. And from this moment, on every child who stands on a range in a classroom or behind a mic will know they don't have to be quiet to survive. Asterisk, the crowd erupted. Some clapped. Some panicked. Security rushed forward not to arrest her, but to investigate the voice in the recording. The man in the suit was gone, but Ariana's voice, it stayed by evening news channels were ablaze. Ariana exposes threat, live on stage champion, risks safety to protect young girl. Courage over silence. Ariana's bold speech rocks nation that night. A message arrived. Not a threat, not a warning, just a video. Kaylee holding her practice rifle, smiling. She said she's not scared anymore, her mom's text said, because now she knows the good guys don't always lose. Ariana sat by her window, the city below glowing like stars. She opened her notebook and wrote, Asterisk, they came after my name, then my story, then my people. and still I'm standing.
Now one shot left.
Her truth survived everything but now. Only one shot can make it echo forever. 1 week after the live ceremony, the world had changed. For Ariana. And for everyone who once watched her as just a quiet girl with a borrowed rifle, her speech had gone viral. The audio recording of the threat was played on every major news outlet. The man in the suit, identified as an Apex-linked security advisor, had vanished. An investigation had begun. But so had something else: hope across the country. Young girls, especially black girls, were showing up to ranges, to schools, to leadership camps,
Out.
with confidence, with strength, and with a name on their lips: Ariana. She had become more than a medal. She had become a movement. But Ariana wasn't celebrating. She was preparing. She sat one night in the same alley she used to practice in as a kid. The same alley where soda cans were her targets, her old boots brushed against the dust, and beside her sat the rifle that started it all. Across from her was Mr. Russell, the veteran coach. He lit a small lantern and looked at her calmly. "You've come full circle," he said. Ariana nodded. "Feels like the beginning again. You're not a beginner anymore." "But the fight hasn't ended." "No," he said. "But you've changed the rules." The next morning, Ariana woke to a knock on her door. It was Lena, smiling, nervous, and holding an envelope. "This came for you," she said. Arawaya opened it. Inside was a letter from the National Youth Council. They were launching a new national competition, one that welcomed every background, with no sponsor politics, no manipulation. They wanted Ariana to design it, name it, lead it. That evening, Ariana stood on the roof of her apartment. The city buzzed below. She closed her eyes, imagined what she would call it. Not after herself, not after a brand. She wanted something that honored the truth, the journey, the pain, and the rise. She smiled, then whispered, "The quiet shot." Because sometimes the quietest shots change everything. Weeks passed. She traveled across the country, helping train new shooters. She met kids who were scared like she once was. She met girls who had been told, "This isn't for you." And she handed them her story, not wrapped in gold, but written in honesty. Kaylee joined her too, not as a fan, but as a rising champion, still limping slightly, but standing tall. One afternoon, Ariana returned to the same national range where she had broken the record. She was asked to fire the first shot for the new competition. She stood at the line, same spot, same lights, same silence. She looked down the range. The target blurred slightly through tears she didn't wipe away, because this shot, it wasn't for herself. It was for every kid who was ever laughed at, every name they tried to erase, every voice they tried to silence. She took the shot. The sound echoed deep, loud, final bullseye. As she walked off the line, a reporter ran up. "Miss Jones," she said, breathless. "You've done everything champion, speaker, leader. After all this, who are you now?" Ariana looked at her calmly and answered, "Still the quiet girl." But now they listen. Later that night, she wrote the last line in her notebook, the same notebook she had carried since the beginning. Asterisk, "One shot can break records, but truth, it echoes longer than any sound ever will." Asterisk, she closed the notebook, placed her father's rifle gently in its case, and walked toward her next chapter. Not as a survivor, but as a leader.